G'day everyone, this is part 1 of my Tasmanian trip from Queensland to Tassie for the 2019 OzSTOC National Rally. I'll try to put a few days into each video as the trip was over 25 days all told. Day 1, the wife and I left Strathpine in Queensland at around 7 am. We decided to take the inland highway as we'd done the coast road a few times before. We rode through Cunningham's Gap where there was a fair bit of fog. It looked quite nice, I must say. After this, of course, we ran into roadworks. We continued on through Warwick and stopped for a bite to eat at a place in Glencoe, New South Wales. The owner of this store sold skins of animals that he'd killed. It's quite an interesting place. Anyway, our first day finished in Tamworth, where we decided to stay the night at the Stagecoach Inn Motel. Only cost $90 for the night, and the owner even set us up in a nice undercover area to park the bike. Day 2. We left Tamworth at around 6:30 to another bright sunny day. The day was quite windy, with a strong side wind causing us to ride at an angle. We stopped at a small town for a break and met the owner of the Bremer Hotel, who is also a motorcycle rider. He spotted us and came over to make sure we were alright. Anyway, we continued on and stopped at the Shell Servo in Coolah. The house next door has a beautiful mural painted on the side facing the servo. It looks really nice. Our next stop was at Qdol to get a bite to eat and have a toilet break. I walked over to the only place in town I could find that sells food, the Qdol Motel and Cafe. It had a real estate sign out the front, and when I spoke to them, I found they were closed for renovations after having just purchased the place. They did show me the awesome burgers they're going to be selling when they reopen in 4 months. So we just rode around the corner, used the public restrooms, and then continued on. Our next stop was at a rest stop just 26 kilometres out of Young. Man, was that a mistake. There were so many flies, I think it must have been the birthplace of all the flies in the country. Anyway, after a short leg stretch, we decided we'd had enough of that, jumped back on the bike, and continued into Young. We decided to stay at the Cherry Blossom Motel for $115 for the night. Awesome rooms. I spotted an ST1300 parked in the manager's garage and found out they were a member of OzSTOC. We chatted about bikes for a while and he said he'd give a discount to any members that ride through the area. Day 3. We had breakfast at the motel and then headed off at around 8:30. They got daylight savings down here, so my times will be off. It was another fine day, and we even began to finally get a nice smooth highway to ride on. Nice change. Our first stop was at Hillbrook, where we checked out the submarine HMAS Otway. The Otway was built in the mid-1960s, commissioned into naval service in '68, and decommissioned in '94. The next stop was at a rest stop just before Benalla, where I found that the rear tyre needed to be replaced. There's also a nice mural painted on the toilet block. We continued on to Seymour and checked into our accommodation for the night at the Seymour Motel. $115 for the night. Nowhere near as nice as the Cherry Blossom Motel, but it did the trick. I organised for a tyre replacement for the next day, and then we went for a ride around town and picked up some dinner. Day 4. We loaded up the bike and headed out a bit before 9 am. Our first stop was next door for fuel. I should have done this the night before, but, oh well, you live and learn. We rode into Melbourne and stopped at Scotty's Dirt Bike Spares to get the new tyre, and while it was being installed we went shopping for some warm gloves for the wife. Couldn't find any, but did get a scarf. Once the tyre was done, we headed to another bike store, but once again, they said all their winter gear was gone as it was warming up. To me it still felt very cold, and I knew Tassie would be much colder. We continued on to visit local club members JD and Chippy. Unfortunately, JD was working, but we did get to catch up with Chippy for a bit. It was really good to see her. Well, that's about it for the first video. Stay tuned for the next one, where we cross over from Melbourne to Tasmania and start the trip there.